All right, let's just dive right into this explainer because we are going to completely reframe how you learn English forever. If you've ever felt like mastering this language is just an exhausting uphill battle, well, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we're pulling insights directly from an expert who spent a quarter of a century in the classroom. We're going to completely dismantle those old, exhausting ways of studying a language and show you a surprisingly relaxing, incredibly effective alternative.
So we kind of have to start by acknowledging the elephant in the room, right? You know that absolutely massive burst of ambitious energy you get on January 1st? You're going to master English, you're going to study every single day, and then, well, the February slump hits. Suddenly by March, those incredibly ambitious language goals just start falling apart. Life gets busy, the motivation completely fades, and you're right back where you started. Why does this happen to literally almost everyone?
Well, why do we inevitably hit that wall? It usually boils down to a few common culprits. First off, we're using boring chore-like methods. We rely on this super rigid self-discipline, like forcing yourself to wake up at 5 a.m. to memorize vocabulary lists while the rest of the world is sleeping. We set these massive, totally undefined goals instead of small, actionable steps. And honestly, worst of all, we demand absolute perfection from ourselves, which just leads straight to general overwhelm and exhaustion. We treat language learning like this punishing, no pain, no gain routine, but it absolutely doesn't have to be that way.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to hit the resolution trap, the 50-50 learning rule, why listening is magic, passive versus active practice, and finally, building long-term habits. Let's get to it. Part 1, the resolution trap, and why we fail. Listen, if you force yourself to just sit there and stare at thick grammar textbooks or hit the language learning gym at 5 a.m. when your heart literally isn't in it, you're going to end up looking a lot like this stressed out skeleton here. It becomes this heavy external obligation rather than an internal desire. If learning feels like you're in a dark, crowded room running on a treadmill but getting absolutely nowhere, it is time to change the method. Moving on to part 2, the 50-50 learning rule and taking control. You've probably heard the old saying, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Well, when it comes to learning English, a teacher can honestly only do about 50% of the heavy lifting. Actually, scratch that. It's probably even less. They can provide the environment, they can correct your errors, give you the materials, but the learner, that's you, must actively choose to step up and drink the knowledge. Because the absolutely crucial point here is that putting yourself in the driver's seat is the true foundation for any genuine progress. Your teacher literally cannot learn the language for you. You've got to feed your own enthusiasm and actually engage with the language in a way that just fits naturally into your daily life.
Part 3, why listening is magic. This is the core mechanism.
There is just a massive difference between studying a language like it's a dry textbook and actually acquiring it naturally. The traditional method, it honestly feels like studying the physics of a tennis ball just to learn how to play tennis. It's explicit, it's isolated, it's silent, and man, it is stressful. But the listening method just changes the whole game. You absorb grammar and context, you acquire vocabulary through natural usage, and you internalize the spoken rhythm, all through really low-stress immersion.
And the cognitive benefits here are absolutely heavy-hitting. Regular listening literally leaves a fluent imprint on your brain over time. It massively improves your comprehension, exposes you to real-life idioms, and naturally corrects your pronunciation because it gives you a perfect auditory model. Ultimately, it just skyrockets your conversational fluency. You simply cannot produce fluent English if you don't actually know what it sounds like, you know? Listening is your blueprint. Part 4, passive versus active practice and how to maximize your results. Think of this as shifting gears in a car. Passive practice is your foundation. It's simply absorbing the language naturally, just following along and enjoying the content with absolutely zero pressure. You're just getting the miles in. Now, active practice is when you consciously apply yourself to really accelerate that progress. You test your recall, you take notes, maybe you transcribe some audio. You don't have to be active all the time, but occasionally shifting into this higher gear is what really locks the language into your memory. If you want a really effective active practice method, you've got to try shadowing. It's incredibly simple but profoundly impactful. Step 1, listen to a really short audio section of a native speaker. Step 2, pause the playback. Step 3, repeat that exact sentence out loud, actively mimicking their pronunciation, their intonation, and their rhythm. It forces you to instantly apply what you just heard, which shifts your brain from just passively understanding to actually productively speaking. But hey, remember, taking the pressure off is just as important. If you just don't have the energy to actively shadow sentences on a rainy Tuesday morning, that's totally fine. Just drift effortlessly on a boat of passive listening. Grab your phone, press play, and let the current of the audio just pull you along. It's a completely valid, highly effective option that keeps you connected to the language without totally burning you out.
Because the very second you demand absolute perfection from yourself, like the moment you try to understand 100% of every single word, flawlessly execute every grammar rule, and just completely beat yourself up for making mistakes, you end up right back here, a completely stressed out skeleton. Those negative spirals will absolutely destroy your motivation. Tolerate the confusion, accept that you just want to understand everything right away, and keep the audio flowing.
And finally, Part 5, Building Long-Term Habits and Making It Stick.
Look, if you take absolutely anything away from this explainer today, let it be this. Ditch perfectionism completely. Seriously, throw it out the window. Your English is probably never going to be absolutely perfect. And you know what? That is completely fine. Forgive yourself for the errors, ignore that harsh inner critic in your head, and celebrate the small victories. The actual goal here is making meaningful human connections, not passing some flawless grammar test.
And to make this an actual daily habit, you got to take advantage of modern technology. Audio formats put English right in the palm of your hand. You do not need to dedicate a whole hour sitting at a desk. You can sneak English into your daily commute, or while you're doing the dishes, or just out taking a walk. Just subscribe on your phone, turn those notifications on, and let the language come to you.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. We know traditional studying is totally exhausting. We know natural listening builds a permanent, fluent imprint on your brain. The only question left is, will you finally drop your perfectionism, stop beating yourself up, and just press play today? Your fluent future is waiting. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep listening.